Good evening and welcome to Budget at a Glance. Of course, we are examining the various aspects of the 2014 national budget. The $220 billion budget was presented on Monday by the Honorable Finance Minister Dr. Ashni Singh under the theme A Better Guyana for All Guyanese. I have with me in studio the Honorable Irfaan Ali, the Minister of Housing and Water, and of course the Minister with responsibilities for tourism, industry, and commerce. Minister, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Eddie, for having me on this program to look at the budget and how the budget meets the expectation of the ordinary Guyanese and how the budget caters for every segment of the Guyanese population.
Minister, I want to start off with probably one of the most topical issues in the budget, and that has to do with sugar. Of course, the government this year highlighted a $6 billion injection into Gaisuko. And this comes at a time when there are calls for much debate about the sector generally, including calls too for a closure, a possible closure of the sugar industry. Of course, this, bearing in mind this is something that is significant, plays a significant role in a significant number of persons. Let us take a look first at the sugar sector and Gaisuko in particular.
Well, Eddie, you have really said it. Sugar plays a very integral role in the economy of our country. Sugar cannot be taken lightly. The industry cannot be used as a political football. And we have said this consistently. President Ramatar, just before the budget in Bordeaux, said that his government is going to continue to invest in the industry to protect jobs, to safeguard jobs, and to ensure the survival of the industry and the survival of the livelihoods of 18,000 persons who are employed directly in the industry and more than 120,000 persons who benefit indirectly from this industry. So directly you're talking about 74,000 individuals who depend on the sugar industry, the sugar sector, for their survival. I think that calls for the closure of the industry and calls for and the statement that this is a bailout for the sugar sector and so must be examined in the context of what is happening in the industry and in the context of what sugar means for us in the economy and means for Guyana. Now, if we are to contemplate an economy without sugar, then there are some severe and serious implications that one must take into consideration. First of all, you're talking about 18,000 families being sent on the breadline immediately because 18,000 workers directly would not have a job in the industry, and the more than 120 persons who depend indirectly on the industry would find it very difficult to sustain their small businesses and their enterprises. So that is the first direct impact. Then you look at the contribution of the industry to GDP, and you will see that the industry accounted for over 4.85% of GDP over the last 4 years. Now, it also accounted for export revenue, or the export generated revenue in excess of US $100 million, or 10.16% of our total export revenue. Now, if you are to just close this industry down, you're talking about an immediate loss in terms of foreign currency of US $100 million, a loss of 4.85% contribution to GDP, and 10.16% of the total export revenue being lost. Now, the export revenue that the sugar industry generate is not to be taken lightly. This foreign currency is used to pay for both consumer and industrial goods. And you would know that our economy has been driven by domestic consumption over the last couple of 8 years, where we experienced positive growth. So the implications of closing the industry, both at the macro and micro level, are fundamental things that we must consider. And that is why this government believes strongly that we must continue to invest in this industry. We must continue to support this industry. And we must continue not only to put the financial resources, but to ensure that the right institutional framework are brought in place, and the right diversification and expansion of the industry to cater for the changes in the industry globally are also taken into consideration. That is why we have moved also to packaging and the cogen plant at Skeldon. So the industry itself and the integral role it plays at the macroeconomic level and at the micro level is indeed something that we must take seriously. And the call for the closure of the industry, or for government to ignore the financial requirements of the industry now, are calls that I think are not based on any facts or any analysis, but are emotive and political in nature. And we cannot run a country, an economy, and put the lives of 18,000 families in the hands of emotive and political thinking. It must be based on factual position. Now, if this industry is closed, it would retard growth in the overall economy, given the contribution of the industry to total output. In fact, the economy would plunge by 4% point. So if we take sugar out of the economy, you're talking about the economy that can plunge by 4% points. So these are all consideration that the government had to put into the entire analysis as it relates to the sugar industry, and our total commitment in safeguarding those jobs, safeguarding those families, and safeguarding the industry as a whole. If you look at the total wages paid by Gaisuku last year, it was approximately 20 billion annually, or 1.6 billion monthly. Now imagine these local economies in Borbis, in Demerara, and so on. Imagine in these communities, if you take away the 20 billion annually, or the 1.6 billion monthly from those communities, what you'll be doing to those communities. You will be completely destroying the structure of those communities and sending hundreds upon thousands of persons into poverty because of the dependence on the industry. You're talking about consumption and spending of over $20 billion annually, or 1.6 billion monthly in these communities.
But I made the point on a previous program, and I think it was sentiments being echoed to by quite a number of persons. Sugar has now significantly moved from just being a revenue earner in the Guyanese society. Sugar has now moved to a level where it has become a way of life, a part of people's daily activities, because you have people who are operating in the sugar industry now, whose grandparents, great grandparents, father, and so forth would have operated in the industry too. So it's more than just being a revenue earner.
But that is what you see. The issue of sugar, there is a serious socioeconomic consequences in terms of the way we approach sugar. Just like the way the PP civic government ensured bauxite stay alive, because an entire community, the largest section of a region depended upon bauxite to maintain its economic stability and growth. And the government made the investments that were necessary to keep the industry going until it is where it is today. Now, there's the same investment that is being made in the sugar industry. Now, this budget, for example, contemplates a subsidy of $6 billion for the sugar industry. Now, this subsidy is geared at saving the jobs of 18,000 persons, or the breadwinner for 18,000 families. If we to look at the intervention and what it means per worker, you're looking at a subsidy of $27,000 per month per worker. So this subsidy for every single worker in the sugar industry, the government is going to invest $27,000 per worker per month in order to keep their job alive and to sustain the industry. If you were to compare this subsidy, for example, with the subsidy we give for electricity in Linden, let us use that as an example. That subsidy works out to 23,000 per month for each customer in Linden. So we have the budget looks holistically about holistically around the socio-economic makeup of various community to ensure that the expenditure of government brings a balance in the economy and brings a balance to those communities and does not pose any hardship on anyone. So the investment of $27,000 per worker per month in the sugar industry would sustain that 18,000 job, keep the industry going, and safeguard the livelihood of 74,000 persons directly and 120,000 persons when you add the indirect population. Similarly, the subsidy of $23,000 per customer for electricity in Linden would ensure that there is a greater revenue left in the customer pocket every month to meet their other expenses. And there is a very important point about sugar that all of us must understand. Sugar was not always in this state. For a matter of fact, if you were to look at the levy the industry provided, it's $34 billion in the form of sugar levy. During the last, maybe from 1992 to 1999, we had about $22 billion, and during the period of the PNC dictatorship, we had about $12 billion. So you're talking about $34 billion of sugar levy. If we were to use the rate of return, or to use the future value of the money in the levy, you're talking about approximately $61 billion. $61 billion that would have been available to Gaisuku if wasn't for the levy. So Gaisuku has played, and sugar has played, an integral role historically and continues to play that role in helping to bring balance in the economy and ensuring that communities that surround the sugar industry thrive economically. So we in the government believes that this $6 billion is justified, the subsidy is justified, that the livelihood of 18,000 families must mean something to us. The livelihood of 74,000 persons must mean something to us. And the safeguarding of this industry and the safeguarding of 100 million US dollars foreign currency and the avoidance of plunging by 4 points in terms of our growth rate if we are to exit sugar are too catastrophic to contemplate. And therefore, I think it is in the interests of all Guyanese that we ensure that this sector is sustained. Now, if you look if you look at what is happening internationally, look at the U.S. for example. The U.S. recently bailed out the auto industry, give subsidy to the auto industry, because even in the large economies, they understand the dynamics of these large employment industries. The auto industry employs a large number of persons, and it is catastrophic for even those large economies when industries like these fail or industries like these close down. Even in those economies, the issue of subsidy is vital because you have to take the comprehensive socio-economic dimensions
Into
of the
consideration.
industry when making a decision. So I think that the call for the non-support of subsidy to the sugar sector and the calls for the avoidance of support for the government intervention in protecting these jobs and protecting the industry is one that cannot be justified. And I will call upon the members of the opposition to not be emotive or political on this issue, but to understand the fundamental implications that this can have on our economy.
Minister, in the interest of time, we just have half an hour, so I want us to go through a couple of things. But I want to take you over to the whole issue of creating employment. This has been a term always used every time budget comes. The budget, is it creating employment opportunities for Guyanese? You want to speak a little to that?
Well, I think that the successive budgets for this government is geared at a few fundamental things. One, creating employment and opportunities, especially for our young people, creating incentives for the development of entrepreneurs, and also to bridge the gap of inequality. Those are the principal positions that these budgets are crafted. You will recall that our budget is along a pro-poor approach to growth and development. And a pro-poor approach to growth and development speaks fundamentally to the issue of inequality and the creation of opportunities. For a matter of fact, the fact that you see so many taxis and young people owning vehicles sends a very strong signal as to who benefit from the growth, who would have benefited from the improvement in livelihood and living conditions. In the housing sector, for example, the average age of a new homeowner has come down drastically to the 30s now. So this is the type of changes that I think the Guyanese people have grown accustomed to, and these budgets would have facilitated. But to answer your question in a direct manner, uh, over the years we have had a small business development fund. We have had WOW, is an initiative for single women, Women of Worth initiative. These are all initiatives that were geared at targeting specifically vulnerable group to ensure that the income levels can increase, to ensure that their earning capacity can improve, and to ensure that they're empowered. Now, budget 2014 introduces a new uh, a new component to the whole issue of job generation and creating entrepreneurs. And I want to talk a bit about the Rural Development Fund that has been announced of 1 billion Guyana dollars. Now, one would ask, how would this fund create job, or how would this fund benefit the ordinary citizens and wider population out there? And I want to give an example. This $1 billion fund, according to IPED figure, they between 2012 to now, there has been a 93% increase in persons accessing loans for small business development of small businesses. According to their report too, an investment of 282,000 Guyana dollars create one new job. Every investment of $282,000 in the small business environment create one new job. So this $1 billion, when you divide it by that 282,000, would create 3,546 new jobs. So this one initiative of an investment of $1 billion would create 3,546 jobs using the IPED criteria, where $282,000 would create one new job. Now, let us take it down to a level further. Let us take, for example, leg one. The population at leg one is approximately 3,300 persons. Let us say that the average size of a household is 4 persons. That would mean that you have approximately 825 households in leg one. Now, how does this $1 billion investment target and help that 825 household in leg one? Now let us assume that we invest out of this $1 billion, $100 million in leg one. This would mean that for every household, we would invest $121,212. That is, for every single family in leg one, we'll be investing $121,212, or $30,303 per person for every person who lives in leg one. This would mean that for every 2.3 household, we will create one new job. We'll create one new job in leg one. Now, if you look at the criteria, you would then realize that in leg one, you would create 355 new jobs with the investment of $100 million, because you have 825 households and you have 2.3 jobs being created. That would mean that in leg one, you'll create 355 new jobs. Let us assume that we get one of the investment or business that they do is a chicken farm with 3,000 chicken. That would work out to a minimum of each person receiving $60,000 per month.
Per month.
Each person receiving $60,000 per month. What that means for leg one is that every month you will have the generation of $21.3 million in the economy. The generation of $21.3 million in the local economy there in leg one. Or, if you take it for the year, you're talking about $255 million for the year.
For
as a result,
a population
of 3,300. As a result of the investment of this $100 million from this one initiative that would create nationally 3,546 new jobs. In leg one alone, if we take that as an example, it will create 355 new jobs, or $265 million of new money annually being available to that community. That would drive consumption, it would drive demand, it would improve their propensity to save, it will take them out to a higher level of earning, it gives them great opportunity, and it gives them a better opportunity to earn, to spend at a higher level, which translate into even greater benefit when it is spread across the board.
The national economy.
So you're talking here about a small island of leg one with this in one investment, this one measure, this one initiative of the government benefiting to the extent that I've outlined.
And that's just 0.5% of the overall rural development fund.
Exactly. In terms of the overall development, that would account for a very low amount in terms of the percentage. For a matter of fact, 10% of the whole fund. So this is just one initiative of $1 billion and the type of impact it will create.
You have spoken about job creation, and I suspect much of it will target young people. I know it's not close to just young people, but I figure most of it will target young people. But I want to take us now over to what is in the budget for senior citizens. I think this is another interesting element. of the
Well,
2014 budget?
this one initiative that I outlined a few seconds ago is one that would target vulnerable groups, would try to create opportunities for young people, and also one that would be essential in the issue of empowerment of people, especially single parent women and other vulnerable persons within communities. I know time is running out very quickly, and you asked me to touch on the issue of senior citizen. I notice some section of the media and the opposition trying to put a spin on the benefit of the old age pension or the benefit of our elderly citizen would receive from budget 2014. First of all, we must understand this fact that the old age pension is a non-contributory pension scheme. You did not have to contribute anything to any pension scheme to receive this. You did not have to. This is once you've achieved the age of 65. The government is giving you this pension. It comes also at a time when our life expectancy is increasing. Our old age pension age, the pension age for NIS was 60. And when we were in opposition, the life expectancy was 58. So people were not even living to the age to receive their pension.
From that.
Today, the life expectancy is 72. So not only have we removed the means test for an old age pension, we have also improved the health condition of our citizens. They can live longer, they can enjoy that old age pension longer. So we have to have the pension that is non-contributory at a very sustainable rate. That's the first thing. Now, what else does the elderly enjoy? What is the total package, the total non-contributory package that an elderly pensioner enjoys in budget 2014 and by the government? And I want my respected elders out there not to be misled, but to listen to the package that budget 2014 allows them. You have an old age pension that would be increased in excess maybe of 13,500 around now, and that would translate into additional benefits to 42,500 senior citizens. Then you have every month the old age pensioner receiving a water subsidy of $1,667. $1,667. So in addition to the old age pension, they receive a subsidy of $1,667. Then they receive every month an electricity subsidy of $2,500 per month. Then they receive a further subsidy on their electricity, because remember, electricity is already subsidized.
Yeah.
So they're receiving a second subsidy. The first subsidy is what all Guyanese enjoy, and that's a subsidy of $2,911 every month.
Per customer.
Per customer. So the old age pensioner already get that subsidy, and they will now get a further subsidy of $2,500. So when these subsidies are added up, in addition to the pension, an old age pensioner receive a package every month of in excess of $20,000. And this is a non-contributory package that they receive. In addition to this, if they would have contributed to NIS, they will get their NIS pension. And if they were on a pension scheme, they will get a pension from that pension scheme. Or in the case of a government employee, their public service pension when they leave the job. So this myth that the spinners are trying to create holds no ground. because the package for the old age pension that is non-contributory is in excess of $20,000 every month.
Minister, time has gone from us. I know we will have to talk about housing, water, tourism industry and commerce at some other time. I hope to bring you back sometime during the course of the week so we could examine the investment in the housing sector, water, sanitation, as well as tourism industry and commerce. I know there is a major thing about the hospitality institute. We'll have to talk about that some other time.
Definitely. I was looking forward to speaking on some of these matters, but definitely I would love to return to speak on the specific sector initiatives.
For that. So I want to thank you very much for joining us this evening. Of course, I think you've shed some light on some very, very critical issues and I think answered some questions in the minds of many, many persons. So I want to thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Eddie.
And I want to thank you very much for joining us at home. This is where we have to say bye for now.